Welcome to Duggars Hangouts, the broadcast that answers doubts about God, the Catholic Church, science, philosophy, and other worldly topics figured out.
Hello, welcome to Sacerdotes Hangouts. On today's broadcast, I'm going to speak on a famous family that's been on a reality show on TLC, which is in a big scandal at the moment. And this is referring to the Duggars. Now, the Duggars are this Christian family, a Baptist family, who are very successful, and they were pretty much given a show because they have a large family. Now, this show is currently suspended on hold due to the scandals, and was airing on the Learning Channel, TLC. And the show's name is 19 Kids and Counting, because this family has 19 kids. They obviously promote the idea of being fruitful and multiplying. And it's based on this Protestant Baptist family that adheres to conservative ideas, values, and whatnot, and what I call repressed forms of courting or dating, and I'll get to that later on. The parents of this family are Jim, Bob, and Michelle, and they teach their children to hug their significant others or their boyfriends, girlfriends sideways, and not the typical way of chest to chest with the arms interlocking the torsos. And these parents do not even let their children kiss their significant others or even hold hands. This is how very strict they are in regards to courtship and dating and whatnot. Now, while this is strange to outsiders and may seem as exaggerated, most Christians seem to understand this as an attempt to keep purity and chastity alive in a relationship. You do not want a relationship to just be sexual, because then love cannot grow. Mutual trust cannot grow if dating just involves hooking up or having casual sex or other extracurricular sexual activities. Then there's no way that love can grow, the bond and so forth. It will hopefully be long lasting. It will be just a bartering system, a trade system of, I give you this physical sexual service and you give me that physical sexual service. So I see that this family is trying to prevent that and trying to raise their children to respect their bodies, and the bodies are of the Lord and the temple of the Holy Spirit and so forth. So I understand that aspect. Now, the way they're doing it, that's another story. It seems a bit exaggerated, but anyhow, that's how they function. Well, their eldest son, Josh Duggar, he was revealed in a magazine that he had molested his sisters and a babysitter. And apparently he touched their breasts and their vaginas as they slept. This is what the magazine published. And the name of the magazine is the In Touch Weekly. This is the magazine that broke this story, which is now in circulation. People are talking about it and whatnot. So to sum it up, 4 sisters, younger sisters, were molested, and a babysitter. And one of the sisters was 5 years old, and she apparently was on Josh's lap, and he was reading a story to her, and he put his hand up her dress to touch her as he was reading the story. And apparently she freaked out. She ran and told the father what happened. So there's different conflicting views because in an interview that Jim Bob gave, he said, and Michelle said that they didn't know anything until Josh came to them. But yet we hear the story of the 5-year-old daughter or his sister, 5-year-old sister. Now the police report reads, this is what the magazine posted on their or printed on their publication. Quote, Josh Duggar was investigated for multiple sex offenses, including forcible fondling against 5 minors. Some of the alleged offenses investigated were felonies. Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar were interviewed by Springdale Police Department on December 12, 2006. The report says that James told police he was alerted in March 2002 by a female minor that Josh, who turned 14 years old that month, had been touching her breasts and genitals while she slept. This allegedly happened on multiple occasions. In 2006, Jim Bob told police that in July 2002, Josh admitted to fondling a minor's breast while she slept. James said that they disciplined Josh after this incident, and the family did not alert the authorities, end quote. So after Josh revealed the molestation to his parents, the father, Jim Bob Duggar, went to the elders of his denomination rather than the police, which he did a year later. Josh was then sent to a so-called Christian counselor or Christian counseling, which has nothing to do with any psychological profession or social work. It requires licensing, of course, MSW and licensing of that sort. And the statement continues, quote, asked about the training center that Jim Bob said Josh was sent to, Michelle told police, according to the report, it was not really a training center. Detective Daryl Hignett asked if the guy talked to a certified counselor, and the guy here's Josh. She said no. She said it was a guy they know in Little Rock that is remodeling a building. Detective Hignett asked if the guy was more of a mentor. She said kind of, end quote. So this guy that they sent him to talk as a counselor when I was pretty much a mentor, not a counselor, not somebody that's a trained psychological professional and whatnot. It's very troubling to learn these details regarding the whole process of what happened. The revelation forced Josh Duggar to resign from the Family Research Council, and this is a group that has been labeled a hate group, namely because they promote a lot of conservative, ultra-conservative views. They speak strongly against abortion, same-sex marriage, and things like that. So they obviously have become the target of progressives and liberals in the media and in the government. And so, of course, they're going to be labeled a hate group. Ironically, while in this job, Josh criticized LGBT people. So he was criticizing gay people, lesbian people, transgender, and bisexual people, even claiming that they are dangerous to children, despite the harm that he caused himself to his own sisters and other female minors, in this case, the babysitter. And what's troubling is that the parents of Josh claimed that his crime was simply a mistake. They seem to be downplaying it as a simple mistake. Now, many people are calling for the cancellation of 19 Kids and Counting. And what the channel did now, the network, was that they pulled the channel, the program rather, they pulled the program, so it's not being aired in syndication. They were airing a couple of reruns and whatnot, and the last episode was pretty much like an interview type episode, and that was the last thing they showed. And now they're not airing the episodes anymore, and in lieu of the episodes, they're airing other popular programs like The Little Couple and whatnot. So the people are still calling for it to be completely gone, canceled completely, not just suspended. And I also believe that filming for any new season and new episodes was also put on hold. Now, another reason why people are calling for the cancellation is because another popular program that was on the Learning Channel, TLC, was Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. And this program followed a redneck family from Georgia and their daughter who participated in children's pageantry and whatnot, who they nicknamed Honey Boo Boo. And this show was canceled, and it was also a popular program that people watched. And it was canceled because news came out that the mother of the young girl Honey Boo Boo, who goes by the name Mama June, was discovered to have been dating a man who molested her older daughter, the older sister of Honey Boo Boo. So, according to the story, the network found out that Mama June, who's the mother of this young girl who they call Honey Boo Boo, and Mama June is not her name, of course, her name is June, but these are just nicknames that they call each other in the family. So, anyway, the mother, Mama June, the mother of Honey Boo Boo, was apparently dating a child molester, a sex offender who molested her own older daughter. So people were disgusted about this because how can a mother date somebody that molested your older daughter? How can you do that? How can you even think of such a thing? After the accusations and the photographs being the show was canceled. They were canceled. TLC promised that they would take care of the children in regards to the education. They will pay for the college and whatnot. But they fired Mama June and the rest of them and canceled the show completely. After learning of this, they were disgusted by it. So this person, Mama June, is saying that she's going to sue TLC, the Learning Channel, because they terminated her show because of this, what she calls a rumor, yet they're not doing anything to cancel 19 Kids and Counting, despite the actual police report showing that Josh Duggar did molest and his sisters and the babysitters. There's actual proof of this. So she's claiming that she wants to sue the network for that and saying that it's not fair. And in a sense, I do agree with her because if they cancel her show based on rumors, because we do not really know if she was dating this person, I mean, how can you really prove that? Does photographing somebody else prove that you're dating that someone, or that couple is a couple? We can't really decide that. I mean, it's really difficult to do that. But nevertheless, these images of her with this man appeared, and they quickly canceled the show. Yet with the 19 Kids and Counting, we actually have actual police records of felonies and molestation that took place. And TLC simply pulled the show, which means there's a possibility they could restore it again. But I believe they will not do that because I feel a lot of people will back out, and I believe a lot of sponsors have pulled out of supporting the network because they kept this show for a while, even after the revelation came out of this molestation. Now, Josh was not charged for his crimes due to the expiration of the statute of limitations, which is a big problem in a lot of states. I believe that in regards to child molestation, child rape, child abuse, any form of child abuse, I believe that there should be no statute of limitations. Victims must be pressured or pushed to report these crimes whenever it happens. Parents, school officials, church officials, people in authority over children must be ordered to report any accusation, any news, or suspect abuse to the authorities. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And there shouldn't be a limit for what these children should report their crimes. Because it just makes them anxious. It makes them feel like the ceiling's coming down on their head, so to speak. And that's just wrong. You're adding to the abuse, the victimization again of the victim. So they really need to do something in regards to the statute of limitations. One of Josh's victims said that she forgave him and that he, quote, sought after God and had turned back to God, end quote. It is believed that this victim even filed for the destruction of all files related to the molestation in order to protect her identity. Now, I'll get into later in a few minutes. I'll get into the reason of the destruction of these files, but let me read you the statement from Jim, Bob, and Michelle, which they posted on Facebook on the 21st of May, I believe. Quote, back 12 years ago, our family went through one of the most difficult times of our lives. When Josh was a young teenager, he made some very bad mistakes, and we were shocked. We had tried to teach him right from wrong. That dark and difficult time caused us to seek God like never before. Even though we would never choose to go through something so terrible, each one of our family members drew closer to God. We pray that as people watch our lives, they see that we are not a perfect family. We have challenges and struggles every day. It is one of the reasons we treasure our faith so much, because God's kindness and goodness and forgiveness are extended to us, even though we are so undeserving. We hope somehow that the story of our journey, the good times and the difficult times, cause you to see the kindness of God and learn that He can bring you through anything. End quote. And Josh himself also posted a short message. Quote, 12 years ago, as a young teenager, I acted inexcusably, for which I am extremely sorry and deeply regret. I hurt others, including my family and close friends. I confessed this to my parents, who took several steps to help me address the situation. We spoke with the authorities, where I confessed my wrongdoing, and my parents arranged for me and those affected by my actions to receive counseling. I understood that if I continued down this wrong road, that I would end up ruining my life. I sought forgiveness from those I have wronged and asked Christ to forgive me and come into my life. I would do anything to go back to those teen years and take different actions. In my life today, I am so very thankful for God's grace, mercy, and redemption. End quote. So those are the statements that they put out on Facebook. And Josh apparently moved out. He's going back to Arkansas. And he has been under the radar, so to speak. We haven't seen or heard much of him after this statement was put on Facebook. Now, this news is just troubling. As a Catholic Christian, I'm called to forgive, but I'm also called to bring about justice in the world and protect the dignity of all human life, including children. And God, He forgives. When you go to confession, your sins are forgiven. Your mortal sins and venial sins are forgiven. But this punishment that you deserve for those sins is not removed. The temporal punishment. You still have to make up for that harm that you did to God and to one another, and to yourself, of course, because sin does affect the person committing the sin. So forgiveness doesn't mean that everybody just forgets, and it's in the story, nothing happens. You still have to pay for those sins. You still have to suffer for those sins, because that's the proper way to do things. You break something, you have to pay for it. I mean, the owner of the store could say, I forgive you, it's okay, but you still have to reimburse the person whose property you broke, whether it was intentional or accidental or not. It is unfortunate that the statute of limitations has expired. And again, I believe there should be no expiration date, because, I mean, it would just create a lot of problems. People will feel like they're pressed against time to report things and to tell people about what's going on and whatnot. And many people will get scared. Many victims will be scared to report it. And many times they don't even know there's a limit of 3, 5 years, 7 years. And since a lot of them might be children, it doesn't cross their mind to go to the police and report it. But as they age, they start to remember these traumatic events. And since they are more mature and more in depth in their reasoning and so forth, then they obviously will pursue charges and report it to the crime, but then it will be too late. And I think that's unfair. Moreover, I find it troubling how some Christians can use the guise of forgiveness and mercy in order to excuse a crime. It's wrong. What Josh did was not a mistake. It was a crime. Michelle, Jim were wrong in describing this as a mistake. You can't minimize child abuse, child molestation, regardless of who did it, whether it's family members or clergy or teachers, coaches, or whoever it may be. And child sex abuse happens more among families, and usually the perpetrators are Caucasian males who are the ones that tend to be the ones that are molesters and pedophiles and ephebophiles and so forth. So regardless of who does it, if it's a priest or whoever, it's not a mistake. Oh, the father was tempted and whatnot. No, he wasn't tempted. He wasn't. Well, to a certain extent, yes, he was tempted, but obviously this guy has something wrong in his mind and he committed a crime. But just because he's attracted to children or whatnot or teenagers does not mean that he should go through it. It's a crime. It's a sin. Whether it's a priest, family member, or whatever. And in this case with Josh and whatnot, just because they're family doesn't mean it's okay. It's a mistake. It's not okay. It's not a mistake. Josh had no right to go and touch his sisters in that way. He has no right to do that. Or the babysitter. Or anybody else who maybe he never told his parents about or the police. So, I mean, we have to wake up to the reality that this is not a mistake. And Michelle and Jim really need to stop saying that. Josh is clearly a pedophile because if he touched his sister 5 years of age, that's the textbook definition of a pedophile. Pedophile is a person who has sexual attractions to prepubescent children. Then there's hebophiles and ephebophiles who have sexual attraction to those who are going through puberty or in the late puberty, 16, 17, 18, and so forth. People with this condition usually repeat their crime, regardless of any therapies given, unfortunately. So it tends to be repeated. And not much is known regarding why these people are attracted to minors of different ages, not just children, preschool, kindergarten age, elementary school, but also older kids, 12, 13, up to 18 or 19 years old. Some people believe that it may have to do with the mechanism in the brain that allows us to feel compassion towards babies and so forth. Because most of us, we see a child, a baby, a newborn, we sometimes automatically say, "Oh, he or she is cute," or whatnot, and we feel that feeling, that cozy, warm feeling when that's when we see these little babies, little infants, and whatnot, and children. And evolutionists, biologists, anthropologists believe that this is an evolutionary mechanism that develops within human beings in order to protect the young. So instead of seeing babies and killing them to eat them, like some non-human animals do sometimes, they kill their own young to eat them. We see our children and we feel sorry for them that they're so young, cute, small, defenseless, and we do anything to protect it. So sometimes reason shuts down and we get into a defensive mode protecting our young. So some psychologists believe that that mechanism, there's something wrong with it and it's somehow connected with the sexual attraction. So instead of seeing children as these defenseless creatures that we have to protect and allow to survive because they carry our genes into the future, then these people, these pedophiles, ephebophiles, hebophiles, have their connection, their wiring connected to sexual attraction, lust, and so forth. So they see it in a sexual way. Or whatnot. That's one theory that's going around in the psychology world as to why these people do that. But we do not know really what's the cause of it, what's the trigger for it, and definitely how to properly treat it, because a lot of these people end up doing it again. That's why we have the sex offenders list. Once you do it, you're on the list. So people who know that you are a sex offender and children have to be far from you. You can't live near the school for a certain amount of feet or miles or whatnot. And you can't have jobs as in the capacity of caring for children and whatnot. Because we know via psychology that these people tend to repeat these things. Now, what concerns me is that Josh has a child and a baby, I believe, and or several children. Who's to say that he's not doing it again with his own children? I mean, God forbid. I hope that's not the case, but we always have to look to the possibility that this guy's obviously something's wrong with him if he's a serial molester. Because I mean, one girl, one sister, but we have five. I mean, obviously there's a pattern here. And he did not do this with just one sister, but with several sisters and one babysitter. So obviously, his curiosity was going into patterns. He tried one, then he wanted to try the other one, then he wanted to try the other one. So if he's a serial molester, which obviously is the case, and he likes to molest different victims, then who's to say that he's not doing it with his own children? Because these are obviously different kids than his own sisters, different people. So there's obviously the temptation there since they are his kids and he's with them. He changes their diapers probably and whatnot. So the whole thing is just scary, and I mean it's unfortunate, and it just tells you how ugly this world is. We have to do more to fix this world. Children are our assets, our treasure. I mean, without children, this world will be just dead. We just have a whole bunch of grumpy adults, grumpy old people, and the species will die out. We don't have children. So we have to do more to protect our children. And just yesterday, Pope Francis approved regulations that would make bishops accountable. Those bishops who kept transferring priests, predatory priests around, and did not do much to prevent abuse in their diocese. Well, he approved the regulations that would make those bishops accountable. Hopefully, remove them from office immediately and have them prosecuted, not just via the church's tribunals and whatnot, the church's courts, but also via the courts of the respective nation, the laws of the respective nature. And that's what we need to do. We need to send the message out there that this is not going to be tolerated. I don't care who you are. You're the Pope all the way down to a layperson. You should not do this. And you should not hide it. You should not encourage it. You should not protect it. You should not facilitate child abuse. It's just wrong. It's evil. Whatever you did to the least of my brethren, you did to me, says Christ. And who's the least of the brethren? Not just the poor people, the suffering, and the sick people, but the children. Children are defenseless. Somebody gives birth to a child and they leave it in the street. The child is not going to get up and start feeding itself like other non-human animals do. It will just lay there, cry and cry until it dies of starvation or thirst. The human child, the human being, the human offspring is a special creation in the sense that it has to be loved and cared for, not treated like a commodity or something that we use to please ourselves. No, that's just horrible. That's disgusting. We have to protect it. And unfortunately, the therapies and the things that we do now, cognitive behavioral therapy, shock therapy, and this or that, they're not really that effective, unfortunately. That's not an attack on psychology, because obviously that's one of my fields of study. But that's just where we're at now. Hopefully, as neurology advances, we start to understand the brain more, the connections of the brain, and also genetics, how they relate to genetics and the receptors in the brain, the different chemicals, endorphin, and whatnot that interact. Until we get a true grasp of that, we could hopefully understand this illness and other illnesses and hopefully treat it better and possibly even suppress the chemicals that may trigger this attraction towards minors and children and this predatory thrill that they feel that they could just abuse people and feel powerful about it. And furthermore, the fact that Josh's parents, Michelle and Jim Bob, saw help from elders in a Baptist sect instead of contacting the police is just horrible. I mean, what's a Baptist preacher going to do? I mean, what's a Catholic priest going to do? I'm not going to defend my own church either. I mean, I'm going to speak sternly and bluntly. I mean, what's a priest going to do? What's a bishop going to do if you report child abuse to them? They can't cure the situation or fix it. They can't arrest anybody. You have to go to the authorities. You got to report it to the authorities in your state, your nation, your province, wherever you live. You have to report it to them. Now, you do report it to another priest or adult teacher or bishop, whoever it may be. They have to, in good conscience, report it to the authorities. They should never try to remedy the situation themselves. That's just horrible. If I was a Catholic bishop or ordained priest or somebody in authority in the church, and somebody came to me and said that Father so-and-so, Sister so-and-so, deacon, or a lay person so-and-so touched me inappropriately or did something inappropriately, the first thing I would do is I would call the police. I will report it to the police. Write it down. Make sure everything's in writing so that we won't have different conflicting stories. I'll write down whatever the person, child who's confessing this to me told me, and immediately report it to the police. I will never take it upon myself to play judge, jury, and police officer. That's not my job. I'll leave that to the police officers, to the lawyers, the prosecutor, the judge, the jury, all that to decide whether what this person told me is credible or not. But as a protector, as a shepherd or whatnot, I must protect the sheep. And unfortunately, some bishops did not do that. They just took it upon themselves to remedy the whole situation. They sent priests to these facilities believing that they were going to be cured, and then they reassigned them only for these priests to repeat the act. And then in some cases, the bishop even tried to pay the victim, say, I'll give you $20,000, $100,000, $1 million, so you just keep it within the church. Don't say nothing to anybody else. I mean, that's just evil. That's horrible. That's disgusting. That disgusts me. I mean, how can you pay somebody off to repress their suffering, their abuse? How can you do that? And then you call yourself a man of God or a shepherd of God. I mean, that's just horrible. That's disgusting. I just get goosebumps just thinking about it. Who in their right mind will do such a thing? It's just horrible. So these parents, Josh and Michelle, they go to these elders in a Baptist sect. I mean, seriously? Come on. That's just ridiculous. Irresponsible. And I mean, after watching a few episodes of 19 Kids and counting myself, I found the exaggerated form of courting or dating to be too repressive. I mean, hugging sideways, you can't hold hands, you can't, I mean, at least have a kiss on the cheek or something like that. I mean, what's wrong with that? That's nothing sexual. I mean, it's physical contact, of course. But God forbid we live in a world where hugging becomes sexual abuse or sexual contact, or you can't even hug anybody anymore. Now, I inherited my mom's genes that she doesn't like to be touched, and I don't like to be touched. I guess we have I don't know, we were related to Queen Elizabeth, but we have a protocol that we don't really like to be touched. And even many times when I greet people, when I meet people, I do not extend my hand to shake them. I just say, hello, how you doing? What's up? Whatnot. And I generally do not let people hug me or kiss me or whatnot. And that's just because I like to keep it professional, and there's also that germ factor. You know, I don't know what you're carrying that you might pass on to me. And bed bugs, ticks, fleas, lice. I mean, not to judge anybody, but these things exist in nature. But for the most part, when I greet people or not, I just keep my arms to the side and just smile and say hi, how you doing, or not, something like that. But I mean, that's just me. I'm not considering dating these people or not. That's a different reality. But to prevent, the children and whatnot to at least show that form of expression, holding hands, and they say that a simple hug, I mean, we're not talking about a hug that both parties grab each other and start rubbing each other's back and grabbing each other's behinds and whatnot. We're not talking about that kind of hugging or whatnot. We're just talking about a simple hug, a brief, a second and a half grab, pat in the back or whatnot, and that's it. Well, this family prevents that. And I mean, it's a bit repressive. And in the interview that I'm going to speak about shortly, one of the sisters described Josh as being a curious teenager who was curious about girls. And I found that interesting because if this family is teaching the kids not to touch themselves in that way, in the sense of dating, hugging each other, holding hands, not for the two couples to touch each other that way, have that kind of physical contact. If you're teaching that to your children, then of course that's going to create repression and curiosity, because a child doesn't understand sex and physical intimacy. They don't understand that stuff. But then when puberty starts hitting along and they start getting these natural desires and attractions, if you don't have a strong grasp of proper greeting depending on your culture, then anything could happen. And we see that with Josh, that he just felt, he grew up with these sisters, they were homeschooled, that's all he saw. And he was curious about females and he started to touch his sisters. And his own sister even said it. He was curious. He was a curious teenager. He was curious about girls. Now, could the way this family raised their kids be what led to Josh's sexual frustration and his curiosity, which eventually led to the acting out on his sisters? We cannot know for sure, but it definitely may be a factor, because it's definitely not healthy to live in such a repressed state. And moreover, Josh's comments claiming that children are in danger with the LGBT people should have not been made, especially since he already endangered children. And I think the speck log thing in your eye that Jesus spoke about in Matthew 7 verses 3 through 5 rings a bell here. I mean, who are you to point the speck at somebody's eye when you have a log in your own eye? And that speaks perfectly in the situation. While I do not support the LGBT, agenda or their push for so-called same-sex and adopting children and trying to push their ideas into society as norm, as a proper behavior, well, I'm against that. I mean, I'm not against them as a people, because we are all human beings. We all have to take care of each other. We are all sinners. We're not better than them. They're not better than us. So we could, of course, criticize the behavior, the culture, and whatnot. Of course, we could do that. But for Josh to go out and say that these people are molesters, or that, and his own mother, Michelle, said that a transgender man can molest a girl in the bathroom or something like that, she said. I mean, how could you say these things when your own son, when you yourself, Josh, you abused your sisters, you molested your sisters? I mean, talk about the speck and the pointing on the speck in somebody's eye while you have a log in yours. I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that in that situation. Now, if TLC canceled another program, again, the Mama June Honey Boo Boo show, then because apparently this lady was dating a man who molested her firstborn daughter, then it's only fair and right and just that this program with the Duggars be canceled as well. Otherwise, TLC would just lose credibility. And by failing to report these crimes of molestation and believing that Christian counseling, whatever that is, somehow fixes things, the parents have failed in presenting an image of a family that protects children. And we know Jesus was very clear regarding those who harm children. You could take a look at Matthew 18, verse 6 to see what I mean. So this is what has been going on with the Duggars. And last week, both Jim Bob, I should say, and Michelle, as well as two of the daughters who were molested, Jessa and Jill, they gave an interview to Fox News's The Kelly File with host Megan Kelly, who's another one that she tends to be exaggerating. She tends to exaggerate a lot of details and presents facts and misinterprets them. But that's another story regarding Fox News and Megan Kelly. But anyhow, in the interview, both Jim and Michelle claimed that they did nothing wrong. They claimed they did everything right. They insisted that it was Josh who came forward to them with the news of the molestation, and that had he not done so, none of them would have known. Michelle even got emotional at one point, but both of them defended their son Josh and downplayed the molestation as a mere curiosity from a teenage boy. I mean, that's what bothers me. That they just downplay it as molestation, as a curiosity in regards to molestation. That's just horrible. They also insinuated that the revelation of this molestation is a plot by an agenda to destroy them. So now they seem to be playing the victim card, saying that they're being targeted. Now, that may be true. I mean, I'm not going to completely disqualify them because this family is not shy about social issues. They have spoken openly and strongly against abortion, same-sex marriage, and whatnot. So, of course, that will make them a target, especially from those who feel they are hypocrites and want to dig up dirt on them. So, of course, there will be targets to liberals, progressives, and people who are upset with their speech in regards to abortion and same-sex marriage. So it's a possibility that she might be onto something there. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean that you have to downplay the molestation. Your son did do the molestation, and he should face his crime. And it's not a mistake. Now, both of them are considering legal actions against the police and the magazine that published this because they claim that they confided in the police system, the child safety agency, whatnot. They confided in them. They were told that all of this would be secret. Nobody will know about it. The records would be sealed and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, this magazine gets access to them. So they are considering legal actions against those parties. Now, a judge did side with them, saying that the files should have never been opened and even ordered their destruction. Now, Jim Bob stated that he went to the police immediately after he learned of this. He said that the trooper gave Josh a very stern talk and did nothing. So he was pretty much saying that the police didn't do anything, that he did his part. He reported the crime and the police didn't do anything. That's what he claims. Now, ironically, this same trooper, whose name is Joe Hutchins, is serving a 56-year sentence related to child pornography. He had a Yahoo profile listing preschool and puberty as his special interest. So the irony that Jim Bob goes to talk to this officer, and this officer does not arrest Josh, does not prosecute him, does not do anything to get the legal process started, and only gives him a very stern talk. And this same officer is arrested and prosecuted, sentenced to jail for 56 years because he had or made child pornography. I mean, the irony there. Now, Jim and Michelle claimed they weren't friends with this police officer, but this police officer apparently said behind bars that he did know them as friends. That Jim Duggar had a towing company. So they had that relationship because obviously towing companies often tow vehicles when the police get tickets to cars and whatnot. So this officer, this former trooper, claims that they were friends. Meanwhile, Jim Bob said they were not friends, so we can't really know who's lying there. Michelle then stated that Josh and the entire family did go to professional counseling and that the safety measures were put into place to safeguard the children. So during this interview with Megan Kelly, Michelle said that they did go to professional psychology type counseling, social work type therapy, psychotherapy, whatnot. And that as a family, they instilled safety guards to prevent it from happening. And among these safety guards were no more hide and seek games. So they didn't want their children to go and hide off secretly in some place, believing that that might be an opportunity to explore each other, whatnot. Also, bedrooms will be locked at night. So the girls will be in their room, the boys will be in their room. They cannot go into their rooms. And babysitters must be the same gender. So a girl babysitter must babysit girls, and a boy babysitter must babysit boys. You cannot have a different sex babysitter. Now, out of the four sisters molested, like I said, Jess and Jill decided to speak out, and they even defended their older brother. They dismissed the molestation again as a teen boy being curious. Now, both call themselves victims, but they were more concerned that the records of the story of the police station were revealed. They described this as a re-victimization. So they were more concerned about the records being revealed of the abuse than the actual abuse, which is a bit troubling. The interviews obviously served as a bit damage control, but I believe that it added to the problem. And here's why I believe this. Jim Bob claimed to have been cooperative with a felony probe, but according to the report dated December 19, 2006, he did not present his son for an interview and stopped cooperating altogether. After leaving a voicemail to Detective Hignite that he had hired an attorney. So he was not cooperative the way he was presenting himself during the interview. Both parents also claim that they are not mandatory reporters. But of course you are. You're a parent. You're a mandatory reporter. You're in charge of children. You're a mandatory reporter. Also, legal experts state that it's the parent's legal responsibility to do what's best for the children. So if your child gets abused, hurt, or molested, or physically attacked in any way, violently, whatever, it's your job as a parent to protect them and to do whatever it takes to protect them and get the situation resolved, not to allow it to continue to excuse it. Now, according to these legal experts in Arkansas, this negligence in reporting the child abuse could get them up to 6 years in prison for child endangerment under the law. Now, here's another twist. The report also stated that, or another report that's circulating around, is that the founder of the Christian counseling facility that they sent Josh to, which is called the Institute in Basic Life Principles, the founder, Bill Gothard, is also accused and arrested for sexual abuse of a minor. So the whole thing just gets crazy. We have the trooper who they told the story to. He gets arrested for 56 years and sentenced to 56 years for child pornography. Then we had the founder of the counseling thing that was arrested and prosecuted for molestation. And also the person who treated Josh Duggar, I believe, was also arrested for child molestation and whatnot, child abuse. So obviously there's something wrong there. Atheists, of course, to start criticizing, claiming that it's religion and the religion is too repressive and whatnot. And in this case, I tend to partially agree because this sect, this Baptist sect, is way too puritanical, way too repressive. They really do not adopt the modern scientific views of things. Almost like the Amish. Again, no attack to these communities, to the Amish or the Baptists, but we know from the Amish that they do not like doctors. They do not believe in medicine, and they also they're very strict in a lot of things that really does not make sense. I mean, Christ never addressed these issues, why not yet? They came out with these ideas, and this all stems from Calvinism, from John Calvin, who had all these different ideas, which is where the Baptist sect and also the Amish, Mennonites, and these different groups stemmed from the Anabaptists of Europe, who had this idea that they had to be pure and whatnot. They were too concerned with the physical, in a sense, the physical and how it might present itself as sin in the world. So to a certain extent, I do agree with some atheists who are criticizing, the whole Duggars based on the way they raise their kids and whatnot. It's not healthy. It really is not healthy at all, and it's not Christian. Nowhere in Scripture does it say to raise your children in that manner, or to go to use the church solely to remedy everything, law, whatever it may be, crime, whatever it may be. Scriptures do not say this. The church teachers do not say this. The tradition of the church, the church fathers, all the different documentations that we have that are part of the teachings of the church of Christianity, they do not say to solely rely on the church for everything. That the church is somehow the judge, the government, and the spiritual church as well. It does not say that. Obviously, Jesus said, "Give to Caesar what's to Caesar, give to God what's to God." He made that distinction of the government is the government and God is God. You cannot mix them. So, I mean, it's unfortunate the whole thing that happened with the Duggars. I mean, we all sin, we all do crazy things, and of course, they should be forgiven. Obviously, they did not want this to happen. The parents, I'm sure the parents did not intend for this to happen. It just happened. But it's still a crime, and they should call it what it is. It's a crime, and I just downplayed it as a mistake, because child molestation, regardless of who did it or is doing it, it's not a mistake. It's a crime. It's a sin. So I hope all that works out, and most likely TLC will cancel the program. I see no other way out of it. I mean, they have to cancel it, otherwise they will lose more sponsorship, and it'll just hurt the whole network as a whole. And I mean, how many people will watch the show now? It will not have the same feeling, the same atmosphere as before. Whereas people saw this as a good-willed, spiritual Christian family, and now it appears as a hypocritical family that's naive, that really does not understand how the world works or whatnot, that's aloof or whatnot. So only time will tell what TLC would do about it. But I mean, if you're listening to me right now and you know anybody who may be suffering from child abuse, go to the authorities. Don't go and tell priests and all these people. I mean, you should inform the church, yes, but not just them. Obviously, go to the authorities and let them know that this is what's going on, whether it's within the church or within the family. And again, it happens a lot within the family. Most of the times, it happens within the family: child molestation, child rape, child abuse, and whatnot. So, thank you for listening. God bless, and Mary keep.